Hi, my name's Brody Moore, also known as Liefx, and I wanted to bring back my podcast, but I figured I needed to restructure it and change it with all the things I've learned throughout the years, and the format I had before on the Rocket League Dojo just didn't quite fit where everything had moved to in the scene. So while trying to figure out what the podcast should be, I decided there's no better way to figure out than just to start doing it. And I decided I just want to sit down, press record, and have a conversation with some people in the scene. And these are going to be the result of it. Things may continue to change and grow, and the format might move around as I continue to do these. But for now, we hit record, we have a conversation. There's going to be some Rocket League talk, of course, but things are going to digress quite a bit. And if that sounds like something that's interesting to you, then you're in the right place. Stick around. If not, appreciate you watching this far. But if you do watch through, thank you for clicking. Thank you for watching. And I hope you enjoy whatever it is we're doing here. CJ, good morning. It's more.
Good morning. It is morning. It's
Okay.
it's 11:04 a.m. and I believe it's probably the opposite time for you.
Very close to it. Yeah, it's usually, I think it's 12 hours ahead or minus 3
10 maybe.
plus 18 quadratic equation. It's 7:30 for me in the afternoon.
That actually works out. Interesting.
Did the math line up? Don't fact check that, ladies and gentlemen. This is not a fact show. This is not about facts. I right off the bat, I need to ask you, because I am a wannabe connoisseur of coffee. Do you do anything special with coffee? Do you make your own coffee, or are you a Keurig kind of person?
No,
Okay.
I'm very much an instant coffee.
Okay.
When I was at home with mum and dad, they've got like the machine with the pods that you sort of put in, so you can make your own lattes,
Keurigs and all that.
cappuccinos.
Yeah.
But now I've just purely got the instant coffee,
Oh,
boil
man,
the kettle.
okay.
So it's disappointing. I'm a bit of a latte man.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing crazy. No shots of caramel or something in there,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
very standard. But certainly enjoy that more than just an instant coffee. However, you've got to make do with whatever's at your disposal.
Here's the thing.
So,
At the end of the day, I understand the caffeine needs to get in. I will not criticize people, but if you're having coffee every day, I gotta say, doing getting local roasted stuff, and then doing a pour over coffee, measuring your stuff out with it. It sounds like a lot of work, but it's 7 to 10 minutes in the morning. It almost is a hobby, figuring out the science behind it, and it changes your life. It changes your life. I'll have to link you. There's a good guy.
so wait, do you have what sort of do you have like a grinder?
Yeah,
thing
so
or
yeah,
grind your beans?
not a hand
Whatever?
grinder though. I have it's a basic one. It's pretty good. It's not perfect. There's definitely better grinders, but yeah, I got a grinder. So there's a local roaster that I go to. He pulls in single origin beans, ethically sourced. He talks to all the farmers, gets it all in, roasts it himself, gets it to me within a day of it being roasted, and then usually want to let it rest a bit to allow some of the CO2 come out. But then I measure it. Yeah, I measure the beans, grind it myself, pour it in. I got a kettle, 96 degrees. I do a 30 to 45 second blooming phase. And then after that, it takes about 3 minutes. I go about.
Wait, whoa! What's a blooming phase?
Oh man, I started this, but I'm going to blame it on you for starting this. A blooming phase, basically with coffee, there's a lot of CO2 in it. It's carbon, right? So there's a lot of CO2 that releases from it. And the blooming phase, the first pour over, you pour about, I pour about 80 grams into 40 grams of grind. And then what happens is the CO2 starts to release. So you'll see it start bubbling. And you want to get as much of that CO2 out as possible, so it's not mixing in with the flavor with the brew. So the blooming phase is just that initial phase of getting as much CO2 out as possible.
Oh.
It's a process. You're like, this is way
There's
too
a lot
much
more to
work for
coffee than
me.
me just pouring some boiling water in there, pouring a little bit of milk on top. That's crazy.
Hey,
How much- surely that's expensive getting this guy to send it to you, this local coffee. How much is it?
I think our dollars are about the same.
No, but you
I
can
thought
tell me
they
how
were
much
close.
it is in
Okay.
US dollars.
Well, US dollars, I don't know. CAD in Canadian dollars.
Oh, sorry. Oh,
yeah, that's what I think was there. Did you?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. No,
No, it was just NA. It was just NA dollars. Yeah.
Canadians are Americans. I'm glad Yummy's not here. He will not.
Yeah, it's about 1.07. So
Okay. That's close enough. Okay. So $18 a bag. I get 2 bags every 3 weeks. And sometimes I don't. Yeah. I only need it every 4 weeks. So yeah, you're looking at like, what's the math? Like $35 or so.
Yeah, for like 38 Australian.
And that makes 2 cups of coffee every single day for 3 to 4 weeks. So not bad. Better than Starbucks, pretty good. I think.
Definitely better than Starbucks.
And it's better than Starbucks. But yeah, either way, not to dwell too long on coffee. But if you're in it, go watch James Hoffman on YouTube. That is a prime. I gotta call it James Hoffman. Go watch him if you want to become an expert or think that you're an expert of coffee. But I want to ask you just about. I got a bunch of stuff. I asked before the show. I asked CJ to send me over a bunch of stuff just about himself. I'll get to that later. That maybe some people don't know, because there's actually some fun stuff I want to talk about. But right off the bat, you're supposed to start an interview by asking a gamer how they got their gamer tag. Right? Is this the proper way? Have I failed? Or no, I'm not going to ask. I think that is normal.
Well, I guess for me it's pretty boring.
That's why I wasn't going to ask you. You were not supposed to answer this.
Well, let me just give it to you, all right? Well, okay. Firstly, I started on PlayStation, and I wasn't actually CJCJ at the start. Mm-hmm. I was CJ_is with like I capital Z.
With a Z, okay.
_ Slayin, like capital SL, lowercase a, capital Y, lowercase, capital lowercase. Really cool, because I made that when I was about 12. And my mate his initials was like LT, so we were like sort of made these, similar PSNs. Thought it was really cool. And I played with that probably for, 3 or 4 years. But then once I moved over to PC, everyone still knew me with that gamer tag. And I wanted to keep I wanted to move on. I wanted to grow up a little bit and go away from that. I wasn't too happy with it. So I wanted to keep like obviously the CJ part, because that was sort of what people still called me anyway. And I just threw another CJ on the end, just my initials twice. That's it. There's nothing crazy about it. I wish there was something. I wish Xbox gamer tag was generated for me, but
you wanted a findable carpet.
I wouldn't mind a findable carpet, but weirdly enough, it seems it's like such a common. It's like it's pretty meaningless, just my initials twice, but it's also weirdly unique in that you could. It's not like if you Googled. I don't know who's.
It's better branding than Liefx.
Like Chicago, That's terrible branding. Because if you Google Chicago, you're not going to find it. You're going to find the Rocket League player for 400,000 pages, unless you put Rocket League at the end. But that's true. I feel like if you Google CJCJ, like I'm probably going to come up. So it's actually not the worst branding. I'll take it.
I'm going to do it right now. You are it's probably biased because Google knows what I want.
Yeah,
you are
Google
the first search result.
Knows what you.
Yeah, no, that's fair. The thing is,
Google Chicago though. See what comes up.
Let's see what happens when I search Chicago.
Try and find Chicago, the Rocket League.
I get any? I get absolutely nothing even close.
He has the worst branding in existence.
When's the last time you've actually clicked on the second page of a Google search result?
Where's the "I'm feeling lucky" button gone?
Oh, do they not have that anymore?
No.
Oh,
that was awesome.
Yeah, no, it's right there. Yeah, it's there.
Wait, where?
I have it on mine.
Wait.
I'm gonna search Chicago, and I'm feeling lucky. I got brought to the Wikipedia of Chicago.
Maybe I don't have the Google homepage.
Maybe you're.
I'm on.
What kind of Google are you using? Australia has a knockoff Google, I guess.
I don't know. I see like my bookmarks down the bottom, sort of thing. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, as we were saying, like it's a pretty boring name. There's nothing exciting to it, but it also, for some reason, adding another CJ on the end actually gave it somewhat of a brand. So don't hate it, but here we are.
What would be your Xbox generated name if you had one?
Ooh,
Devastating Xbox. Crocodile.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Like, or something about like a Tassie Devil or something, Tassie Tiger. It's obviously, that's what. If you talk about Tasmania, people only know about Looney Tunes.
Exaggerating Drop Bear.
That's not bad. Drop bears are real.
Yeah, I've seen them on the internet. It's all the real stuff. But let's talk about that transition because you you eventually get. We fast forward everything. You're older. You're more mature now, and now all of a sudden, you're a Rocket League player. And you're forced to lose all the brain cells that you just gained by growing up. What was the? I guess there has to be a simple realization of like, oh my God, I'm a professional esports player.
Yeah, it was pretty weird for me because I guess I don't know, Rocket League came out 2015, so I was in year 11 at the time. I think I was 17. That makes sense. Yeah, I would have been turning 17 in that year when it came out. So I wasn't exactly a young buck, but there was just, I was playing video games like anyone else after school, still just hanging out. I was playing it back then. It was probably more a bit of FIFA, bit of Call of Duty. So I was always playing those sort of games. I was a bit of a Call of Duty OG. I used to play with my dad actually. I remember some of my earliest gaming memories would have been, this doesn't sound great, but I was playing Call of Duty with dad when I was probably like 4 on computer.
What's wrong with that? That's great.
It was like Call of Duty 1 or 2, and I just remember, I think I was either like aiming and then he was using like the keyboard and mouse or something.
Oh, you guys were going dual on that with
just dual wield, and then it turned into like I just got better than him, so I started just playing by myself. Playing a bit of that, and then always playing a bit of FIFA, 2K, stuff like that. But Call of Duty was certainly
that's where I started
FPS
too.
Games a bit earlier on. Yeah, so that sort of got into my gaming place. Bit of Medal of Honor as well. That's a throwback.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah.
Back in the day. And then other silly games like I know Hogwarts Legacy's just come out. I remember playing like this original Harry Potter.
Dude, on the PS2 was it?
I think I played on computer, but it was like I don't know what it was called. Maybe it was a Chamber of Secrets game or something
as well.
Maybe it was Philosopher's Stone.
There were a couple that were alright.
NA people call it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I played a bit of. I was always playing some computer games. Always into that sort of stuff. Anyway, fast forward to let's go to now 2015. The game comes out, and it was actually my sister's boyfriend, now fiance, saying, hey mate, there's this new game that's come out. It's like car soccer. It's pretty fun. Like it's free on PlayStation.
Sounds so stupid.
Download it. And it just sounds silly. But it was like download it. I think it was like the day it sort of came out or the day after it came out. It was free on PS Plus for that first month. Gave it a download, and then was, as everyone is, like spent the first 2 weeks trying to find the ball. Like I was just driving around in my car as anyone does. Couldn't hit the ball at all, and just kept enjoying it, kept playing it, played the casual playlist, and just sort of just jammed it after school, not really thinking too much about it. I was just sort of playing like any other game I would. Started playing online. Then the sort of preseason ranked came out. I started playing a bit of ranked. Then I hit my first aerial stuff like that.
What rank were you in preseason? Do you remember?
I was actually, I got pretty good pretty quick because I have a plat crown.
Okay.
I was top 100 in 2v2. I think I got to maybe like 20th in the world or something.
Oh, nice. I thought you hit it early stride.
I was on a heater, not really early, but early enough that it was still pre-season before season 1 of ranked came out. But I started getting good, and then I was playing. I think like I queued into some Americans somehow, and they were like, "Hey mate, you're pretty good. Do you want to play in an ESL Cup weekly thing?" I was like, "This is the coolest thing ever. Let's do it." Played in an ESL Cup, got a couple of wins, and then lost to a team called Air Force 2, which is Dig Dog 22. If anyone knows Mr. Dig Dog.
Throwbacks.
That was the first time I met him. He now works at Sonics. He's an OG SARP player. So they were aerialing up in the air using breakouts, Dominus. It wouldn't be Dominus, but using breakouts and stuff. But I've never seen anyone on the ceiling like up that high, and I couldn't believe it. And then I realized just how big the skill ceiling I guess was in Rocket League. And then just tried to just keep. I wasn't exactly like pushing myself like I'm going to be the best player, but I was like, hey, that was cool. I'm going to try and learn that. So I started doing more aerials, started, I guess, growing the game. And then I guess the competitive side sort of came out. We had the first World Championship. I think I watched some of that. I was always sort of watching Kronovi and Cooks here on Twitch and YouTube. And sort of just playing in these local online tournaments and just I guess growing, joining a team, then getting good, then joining another team, sort of keep moving my way up.
It's a very
finding some
gradual
people to play
process,
with.
it seems.
Yeah, very gradual, because I guess, when the game comes out in 2015, we didn't have an RLCS until 2017 for OCE, which was season 3 of Worlds. So we had a little bit, we had some local tournaments and stuff. And I guess the first time, to answer your question, I've really gone a roundabout and given you my whole life story. But I think your question was like, when did you realize that like you're actually, a pro? And it probably didn't sink in until I went to my first LAN, which was in, I believe, Sydney. Just got the opportunity to go there. And that was probably the first time that my parents as well realized, okay, well, he's, he was making $100 here and there online, but now he's actually getting a paid trip, with the sponsors to go to Sydney for I think it was like a $7,500 LAN. Like, it was pretty tiny, but there was only 4 teams there or something representing, or from Australia. And yeah, meeting just new Rocket League people that you'd met online and chatted to online for so long. And not too long after that, a few months later, was the season 4 season where we qualified in Melbourne at a LAN to the World Championships. And then I was off to Washington. And then after that, it just went nuts, I guess. It was crazy.
Yeah, that it does feel like, you had a more, like, you weren't immediately on the top, like you weren't SARP and anything. So you had this moment that, or like a time that built up to it. Then you eventually had to reflect, like, oh, hey, look, I'm pro at this. Did you want to be? Like, was that a goal of your life to be a pro? Or it just happened?
No, not really. It was just, I guess, an opportunity. I mean, when I started playing, I've always been like pretty, I don't want to pump my own tires up, but I've always been pretty decent at video games.
Yeah.
Like when I was playing Call of Duty, I was sort of like joining, there was no like sort of pro scene, but I was sort of like joining, these sort of teams or orgs, I guess you could say, and screaming. And so, like, I did a few streams on COD 4 back in the day. I did a couple of game battles, but it wasn't massive on that. But just sort of like this local Oz COD 4 scene.
Okay.
Nothing crazy. And I remember, like, I was like 13, and the org was like, "You need to be 16," and I was like, "Trust me, I'm 16." But I was like, I'm 16." Yeah. But yeah, so I was always like a decent gamer. And then when I played Rocket League, I was playing with sort of schoolmates, and I was like way better than them. And everyone was calling me like the Wizard, was like my nickname when I was playing, because they were like, "How is he doing this? How does he know how to aerial or just find the ball?" So I always knew I was pretty decent at Rocket League, but yeah, and I never really wanted to be pro. It just sort of, I don't want to say it fell in my lap, but it was just an opportunity, I just kept taking the next opportunity. Like, yeah, I'll play in this online tournament. Yeah, I'll join this team. Yeah, I'll play this $100 weekly. And then I guess that competitiveness from me playing other sports growing up, I thought, well, this is a great opportunity to, go to Sydney, great opportunity to go to Melbourne. And then, you see the World Championships and you're like, well, I'll have a crack at that. I'm one of the best players in the country or in the region. And then it just kept going from there. I guess I think a lot of pros, grow up and thinking, I want to be a professional Rocket League player. There's a lot of those 10-year-old kids that are now 15 that have wanted to play for so long, but it was never really a thought in my mind. It probably wasn't even, I guess, esports still, now it's so much bigger because it's more normalized, I guess. But even back then, like, we had Call of Duty leagues and Counter-Strike and stuff, but it seems so far away. And I think particularly as an Australian, like, Australian esports is still tiny and it's not very big. So even in Counter-Strike, like, we never really had a big team.
It's so hard. You guys are so isolated from everywhere.
Yeah.
Like any of the major
points. It's pretty hard for that sort of stuff. But I guess it was just a way for me to, I don't know, a little side hobby that turned into a way to see the world. And that's kind of what I treated it as.
It is interesting hearing people that are at the ground, because I can empathize extremely. Like, there was no vision that I'd ever be. I didn't go to school for broadcasting. I did YouTube for fun because I liked doing it since I was like 18 or something. And I was 25 when RLCS, or like when the game launched. And then RLCS was about a year after. But it was like something that we just did, I'm like, Lawler and I just really enjoyed it. So we were doing stuff for VVV and just whatever, if it becomes a thing. When they first asked me to do RLCS, just to prove how it was, my vision of what it could be was nowhere near where it should have been. Was it was Golden Boy called me up, and I gotta admit, at the time, I actually had no idea who Golden Boy was. I watched Halo back in the day, but like I knew Chris Puckett, and I knew and I know the Ogre Twins, Walshy, like the final boss. But that was it. I watched it on G4 TV, but I didn't know who he was. He called me up and he's like, "Hey, would you be interested in doing this?" I'm like, "Yeah." In my head, I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going to be doing it in my room just as usual. I'm like, I'll be casting in my room. And it was a week later. He called me and said, "Hey, you got it. When can you fly out?" I instantly was like, "What do you mean fly out? Where are we? What?" He's like, "Well, next week, can you fly out to LA?" And I'm like, yeah, I'll have to tell work that I can't come in, I guess. I'll see if they're cool with that. Like, I had no idea what it become. I'm like worried I'm going to miss a shift next week. So eventually I'm like, you know what, I always wanted to be a pro player in something, but just to be in esports, I was doing Smash Brothers tournaments before that, like TOing stuff, but for a few years before that, but like to be involved in something like this was cool. I'm like, I told work, I'm like, I'm not coming in next week. And I don't know if I'm coming back ever. And they were all excited because they knew I was watching Rocket League, any of the stuff the RLC was putting on up to that point. So it was cool. But yeah, I had no idea what the vision it was. Sometimes you don't think it'll happen. It just all of a sudden, the right pieces fall in place and it starts rolling. And then all of a sudden you're there.
Yeah, it's crazy. Even, I guess, my first World Championship, that was season 4. Golden Boy was there. I was similar with him, just quick. Like, I didn't really know who it was until I saw, I guess, on Twitter.
We're throwing shade to Golden Boy
how many followers he had. Yeah, and then, like, the emote, like the Twitch emote, stuff like that. So, quickly learned it was a little bit bigger. But even it was crazy, like, I guess, watching, the likes of Kronovi and Cooks here on YouTube, on Twitch for so long, and then, you sort of, I wouldn't say like I was idolizing these people because again, Rocket League wasn't really like my be all and end all. I was still into AFL. Like
it's
football,
still something.
Really touch on
when I had Kronovi in my lobby for the first time ever because I was casting him. I was like, this is so cool, right? But nobody else in the world knows who he is, right? But like,
so we go to season 4, and then I remember where the backstage or the practice area was like underneath the stage, right? So you have to go down a couple of flights of stairs and. At that time, like Twitch was running RLCS, like running the LANs with Cloud Fuel. Shout out to him, absolute goat. But I remember we'd go down there and like nothing was set up. And here I am setting up monitors and desks and computers like with Kronovi. Like we're helping each other like screw a monitor onto onto a mount and stuff. And I was like, this is so weird. Like, I mean, watching this guy, he's an absolute superstar in Rocket League. And here I am just having this real normal conversation, screwing a monitor on. With this guy. So that was quickly just, I felt like I was like, wow, here I am. Like, this is because I still was, I guess, a nobody coming from OCE at that point. Had no followers on Twitter, probably had 100.
You were always a somebody. People just didn't know it yet.
Yeah, and I guess that's the start of my, I guess, emergence was season 4 because of that LAN, even though we got absolutely smashed. I came out with a sign that just said, follow me on Twitter. And it got me like 2,000 followers. So that was like the first time that was my first walkout, I guess you could say.
You make a statement.
Just thought I'd put a sign up because I was like, why would I not just hold a sign up? There's at the time maybe 50,000 people watching online, few thousand people there, and yeah, it was fun.
It's interesting though because like, do you like you set a precedent pretty quickly that like, oh, this guy's outspoken. This guy's out there. This guy is he's a force to be reckoned with. That's a personality you got to watch. Did you feel like that is I'm assuming it wasn't, it sounds like it wasn't a calculated thing. It just kind of happened. Do you see yourself as that kind of person? And also as a follow-up to that, do you feel like there was some pressure to follow up as that kind of personality afterwards, even if you weren't feeling it on that day?
I wouldn't say then there was pressure. I'd say now or before when I made lands, probably after season 5. Definitely after season 5 was like every time I made a land, it's like, what's the walkout? I got hounded every time I streamed, like people giving me ideas and stuff like that. And then I did another walkout in season 6. I don't know if you remember, that was I had like a Steve Irwin thing, wrestled a crocodile, dove
Oh
out, had like a red
yeah.
carpet. We had like the boxing kangaroos. I was training
Yep.
mines with Express and Shady. That was awesome fun, and they really embraced that. And then I guess, yeah, we had season 5, season 6, and then I didn't make a land for a while apart from
So
the dream
recently,
hacks.
yeah.
And even the dream hacks, people were like, "What are you gonna do for a walkout?" I'm like, "There's no
There's
walkout.
so
It's a
much
dream hack.
pressure. Yeah.
Like everyone needs to settle down." But um, I don't know. I wouldn't say there was that much pressure. I definitely, I guess, am a little bit in the minority in that I'm not, I guess, like I want to say like the stereotypical gamer who's a bit
Yeah.
more, I guess, introverted,
Hmm.
coming from a very, I guess, sporty background and yeah, pretty, I guess, outgoing, out in
Yeah.
public and. Also at school back in the day, I was really into like drama and theater performance stuff like that. So I was in a few college productions and stuff like that. So I enjoyed that side of things as well. I guess expressing yourself and acting,
Okay. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
a few of my teachers back at school wanted me to go down like an acting path, go to like acting school and
So you
stuff like
you took a
that.
couple like theater courses?
Yeah, I did some theater courses at college, which was like year 11 and 12, like 17 and
Yeah, I
18
do.
years
It's
old.
just interesting because I
Um,
did theater in grade 11, 12, and then college as well. So it's just interesting that
wow.
I'm
Yeah.
curious to ask the other casters if they've had any theater. I wonder if it's a personality that gets attracted to that, or like if
Yeah,
that
so
helped us.
I guess that's where a bit of like who I am comes from because I enjoyed that side of things, which is
Hmm.
weird because when I was like a little bit young, or when I was a lot younger, say 10, 11, 12, like I hated public speaking.
Hmm.
I was one of the people who just get so nervous, like
Yeah.
you're nearly in tears before you get up there. But I think when I was 12, I was one of like the captains of the primary school, like grade 6, like the end of before you go into high school or
Hmm.
whatever. And I had to sort of like start speaking in front of the whole school. And there was still only like 400 people plus
That's
teachers and
still
stuff.
that's a
But
lot.
that really was like you just stepping into the fire at that point. And I was like, well, it's time to nut up or shut up pretty much.
Hmm.
And that really just, after doing a few of those speeches, I was like, wow, this is really easy. And like people don't really care at the end of the day what you're doing. They're just kind
Hmm.
of sitting there. But also you can really you have that opportunity to entertain people, I guess, at the same time, and at that point you've got everyone's attention. So I guess that sort of transition to how I did the walkouts and stuff. But yeah,
Hmm.
it's funny how here I am now where I probably thought the drama and theater stuff, because I didn't go down that path post school, that I was kind of
Hmm.
like leaving that aside. But I found an opportunity where I'm not in TV shows, movies, or on, productions or on
Hmm.
Broadway, but here I am in front of cameras. So it's
Entertaining,
weird
yeah.
how, yeah, you still use those skills that you've learnt and
Yeah.
still find a way to express yourself.
It's funny because I as a kid when I was 5, 6, I remember a couple moments. Obviously, memories then aren't going to be the best, but I remember a couple moments, and then my parents tell me later too about this. But I always said I wanted to be a weatherman, but I don't know
Yep.
why that was my career choice. But I just wanted to be a weatherman, and I also, when I was 15, the reason I had the name Leaf was a book series I read, and I just became. That was also the beginning of when I was like developing depression, so it was like a very emotional period for me, and I just became very attached to this book series, Del Toro Quest,
Hmm.
and I wanted to be the character. I'm like, I told my parents, yo, change my name to Leaf. I want my name to be Leaf, and they of course said no. Also, I wasn't didn't turn to weatherman, but I feel like it's funny how things still come around that. I'm a broadcaster. I've done telestrator segments. That's a weatherman segment,
Hmm.
and more people know me as Leaf than Brody now. So it's
Hmm.
it's just interesting how that the things you go through but don't realize are going to become important later on because you've stepped away from it, but those things still end up coming back. That was probably the worst way to describe what I'm thinking right now, but like how those things
I
come full
mean,
circle.
it's like I've done a couple of I guess speeches to like year 10s and stuff, going back to my old school. They've invited me back. Not sure why, because I'm not the best example of, I guess following the regular path of becoming a doctor. But
Yeah.
I guess like it's all about just making the most of your opportunities and just
Hmm.
saying yes to everything. Like that's probably the biggest thing that helped me. If I I didn't start picking up this game, if I didn't agree to jump on at 4 a.m. for a ESL weekly Sunday North American tournament, play Dig Dog, like all these things, like those little things as well. But even at school, like if I didn't say yes to, why not? I'll go in this production. Like I don't know if I'll really like it. I don't know if I enjoy that sort of thing. And even if I didn't, I guess go back all the way to when I was, that school captain or whatever, vice captain when I was 12 years old at the school. Like I didn't want to be a public speaker, but I was like, you know what? I'll have a crack and see what happens. And you learn all these skills, and I reckon there's a lot of people that, I want to say like they just settle, but I was studying to be a physiotherapist. I was doing exercise science, and I guess that would have gone so far away from, I guess, all of like some great attributes about me and what I really want to do and what I guess makes me tick. And I think a lot of people just settle into the 9 to 5. Not that that's a bad thing.
Yeah, some people enjoy it.
Yeah, some people love it, but I think that they probably, I guess, shy away from a lot of opportunities. And I guess even a lot of Rocket League pros, like you see them not really engage much with fans when they're at LANs, or they they don't want to do the walkout, like they just want to like stay in their lane. They want to play Rocket League. They don't want to stream. They want to do content, stuff like that, which is fine because a lot of people just are purely there to play the game. But I think you look back on that and think, wow, like imagine if I just did something else there. Imagine if I, got amongst the fans more. I wish that I did this. I wish it, like, you don't want to be that person that looks back and goes, man, I wish I did that. Like even probably one of the reasons why I'm talent right now is because back in, I think it was season 5, they were asking some pros if they want to go on the desk. And people are like, oh, no way. Like, I don't want to go on the desk. I was like, yeah, why not? Like, and I was like, always sort of, had that mindset. Like, well, I wasn't like, well, yeah, that's everything I've wanted to do. But I was like, oh, that sounds fun. I was like, let's just jump on the desk. Why not? And then got on the desk season 5, and then I was on the desk season 6, I think, as well. And then just opportunities open up. Before you know it, I'm like going to BTS to do that sort of stuff. And it's all about just, for me, embracing opportunities, which is what I told those year 10s when I went back and spoke to those guys. It's the same with school, same with sporting teams, just everything. Just have a crack at something once, and then you can say you've done it. And you might not enjoy it, but I think you'd still be like glad that you did it.
I think it's a good side note. I miss BTS, but also I think that's a key point. Is just because you're doing something right now for the next few months doesn't necessarily mean that that's the thing that you have to be doing. A lot of it is about understanding where your limits are. Okay, if I do this, maybe I'll fail, but that failure becomes knowledge, or maybe I'll realize, no, I don't want to do this. Because if an opportunity comes up when you're, right now where you have an opportunity to do something, fail, realize you don't want it. And then later on, say an opportunity comes up for a whole career to do that thing, but you haven't experimented to know you actually don't want to do that. How are you going to make the proper decision on that opportunity to know, well, I know I don't want to do that because I already tried that thing. So I did programming in college, right? And I was doing the theater as like side things. And it's like, I realized 3 years, a little too late, 3 years into doing computer programming, that I don't want to do this for a career. But imagine I had just like had a chance.
But you don't regret those 3 years though.
No.
Yeah.
I was very sad because I had to tell my parents, hey, I think I'm going to drop out. I wasted money doing summer classes because I was failing a couple because I just wasn't in it. And I'm like, I can't focus on this. Right. But now looking back, 10 years later, is like, that in itself was a lesson to teach me that I need to learn lessons, right? It was a little meta of a lesson, but it's like, you have to do that. I was very sad at the time, and I felt like a disappointment for sure. But later on, it was very worth it.
Yeah, it's like the same thing with me. I mean, I studied exercise science, which is like a pathway to being a physiotherapist. And I did 2 years of that. And you could say I actually have 1 year left for that like mini degree.
So if casting fails for you, you can be you can come in and do physiotherapy for the pros, do the massages.
Yeah, on the hands and everything. But I did 2 years of that, and then Actually, the reason I dropped out was because it was 2019 was my last year, and there was like placements and pracs.
Okay.
But that year was the Dream Hacks, BTSs, and I think there was like
A lot of
6
Rocket League.
international
Yeah.
trips that year. So I was like, well, I'm going to be traveling so much, and I didn't end up going back. But like, I don't regret those times at all. Like, you meet so many good friends. I met my partner Brielle, who was studying like a different health science course. We had the similar courses. So I really do think like everything happens for a reason, and it might not look like it now, but you're
Yeah.
always like you're on. Just tell yourself that you're on track, like you are where you need to be, and it'll all work out in the end. And I've had that so many times during my Rocket League career as well, where I haven't made a land with a team, and you're just thinking like, why me? Like, what's going on? But then you go like a year down the track or whatever, and then it all works out. Like the same thing with what happened last year. I mean, it was me, Kami, and Siki. Like we were like I thought we were the best team. We had Siki, he was the GOAT, and we just weren't working out. And then I was gonna retire because I wasn't happy with the team, wasn't enjoying myself. And then all of a sudden we pick up Fever, this young gun, and then all of a sudden we're straight back up to the top. And then you just realize like, oh, everything happens for a reason. And yeah, it all worked out to where I am now. But yeah, I guess getting away from Rocket League. Yeah, it's just knowing that everything happens for a reason. And even as you said, if you think you have 3 years that were wasted, well, I think it's just 3 years of growth rather than having debt that, you can always pay that off, or you can go, you can die with it, which is kind of what a lot of people do as well. And then you can forget about it.
It's the 3 years of experience you don't yet know how to use, but it will be usable at some point, right? And it's not to invalidate emotions. You shouldn't be a robot going through those moments. You need to be happy, sad about those things, even if there are failures. But to understand that there is something to be learned at some point. It might not be tomorrow, might not be next week, might not be 5 years from now. But there's generally something to be learned from that. That's right. Now, there's one other thing you mentioned. I'm gonna shift a bit of gears here. You played other sports as well. You brought up the physio stuff without me having to, but I'm gonna bring up the AFL. You played AFL. I love Aussie rules. I'm making sure it's Aussie rules football.
Really?
Right? Yeah. Here's the thing. I'm not an expert in it, but whenever I'm watching it, I actually actively used to put it on when I worked in the pubs. I used to actively put it on whenever I could when I was in there, because I'm like, this is a fun sport. I come from hockey, so I like that. I don't just rawness of it, the speed of it. It doesn't stop. It keeps going. I loved it. It was a great sport.
Yeah, it's something. It's the biggest sport in Australia, but outside, rest of the world, no one really. A lot of people, so many people don't know that it exists. Really, you just look at rugby and soccer or football for you guys, but this is our football, which is we call it footy.
Way better than American football.
And it's the it's the best sport. It's the best sport in the world. Honestly, it's awesome. I think that for those that don't know, just Google it. AFL, Aussie rules football. It's like gridiron, but without protective gear. It's like soccer, like teamwork. There's passing. It's like rugby. It's full contact. Super fast paced. Massive field, and you just run all day. There's like 18 versus 18, and it's good fun. You kick the ball around, you mark the ball.
What's the move
you handball it.
where you jump on the other person's shoulders to get? There's a name for that?
Oh, you take a specky or a screamer.
That's such an Australian name.
Yeah, or a hanger. Yeah, there's a lot of different ones for it. But yeah, it's an awesome sport. I played it since I was young. My dad played it. My grandfather played it. My pop played. Like it's been around since I think like 1900.
Pretty sure we have a lot of local. Yeah, because I worked with someone actually in one of the pubs that played.
It's actually one of my friends went over to Canada, went to Banff, and they have like some footy like leagues where they play different cities or different towns. I guess over in Canada. So yeah, it's growing over there.
We're Commonwealth. We have to support each other.
Yeah, we do. I think there's leagues there's even some in I've seen some in like Africa and stuff, and so there's a few AFL little leagues around the world, but yeah, it's certainly massive over here. We get for our biggest day, like our grand final, our Super Bowl, whatever you want to call it. We get about over 100,000 people in a stadium. So it's
That's
massive.
big, yeah.
You
No,
know,
that's
you're never
big.
going to get that in a, I guess, NBA final when they can only, I think it's like might be like 40,000, 50,000.
I don't
So
think they can fit it, yeah.
I've never heard anything, just as loud as that. It's a massive field, massive stadiums, and yeah, it's very exciting to watch sport. It's not like, with the greatest respect to NFL, where it's so start-stoppy. It's all about the ads. Like, we'll obviously have the Super Bowl on this weekend. There's all the ads. It's all about the show. It's about the theater, but this is about the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
What's that?
You're doing it with respect. I'm doing it without respect. I think the three most boring sports in the world are football, like the soccer, American football, and baseball. I think those are the three most boring sports I've ever witnessed in my life.
Yeah. I don't like that. Don't like baseball. Don't really like NFL. I'm happy to watch like cool highlights. Like, I think there's cool moments, you know, some long passes, touchdowns, you know, cool runs and stuff. But
yeah, everything has a cool moment, right? You know,
but yeah, it's not that great. I think football as well. Like, I love watching the World Cup and stuff, but I agree there's a lot of boring games. I don't really watch it all the time, but I do enjoy, like following Australia in the World Cup or
fair,
watching big games. I'd love to go to a massive Premier League game or something like that, and just the atmosphere there. And yeah, I played a bit of cricket as well, which a lot of people find cricket boring.
I still have no freaking clue what's happening.
Really?
Yeah, I've tried. No idea.
It's interesting. It's
Can't games last like 3 days?
It can. You can have 5-day test matches. So it goes. That sounds like the most boring thing is, and it sort of is. It's sort of like if you. It's massive in Australia, massive in England and New Zealand, South Africa, stuff like that. And it's sort of that thing that like you'll watch it, but it's sort of something you just have on in the background. Like, you just leave it on for that 5-day test. You're not sitting there watching it for 5 days straight, but it's sort of it's like that background music that we always have. Like, it's an Aussie thing in the summertime. You know, we have the Boxing Day test, you know, the day after Christmas, that goes for 5 days. So, you know, on Boxing Day, everyone's outside playing a bit of cricket, and you've got it on in the background, stuff like that. So that's a bit of like an Aussie culture with cricket as well. So I played a little bit of that. But yeah, Aussie rules football. It's definitely the best sport in the world. Just look at some highlights on YouTube if you want to check that out.
I'm trying to, if I remember, I'm trying to have some clips over top of this if I can, as long as there's no problems with it being clips of
there's even something like there's something called, I think it's like AFL biggest hits or something, and it's just people smashing into each other, and it looks brutal because there's no like, you wear a mouth guard and that's it. There's nothing else.
Yeah, no, it's my coworker would come to work with like massive bruises. Do you have any do you have any lasting battle scars?
Not really. I've
just
a lot of dislocated fingers, broken fingers.
And you can still be an esports pro. You didn't have any problems?
that was the risky thing when I was sort of still playing football and playing Rocket
when you were
League
playing up while you were playing Rocket,
I was still playing. Dude. So that was kind of the risky thing. I just, my mindset was, as long as I don't break my thumbs, then I'll be good, because I think everything else you can get away with.
Sort of, yeah.
So I started just strapping my thumbs just for a little bit.
I was gonna say, how do you avoid that? You're in the split moment. Oh, I'm following my thumb. Switch to my middle finger.
Yeah, you can't really avoid it. You're certainly just still going 100%. But I guess you're just hoping that your instinct takes over and you look after yourself. But that was a little bit risky. So I didn't play as much football, and I haven't played for a couple of years now, or 2 years, I think. So
that's tough. Would you want to play again?
Certainly would want to play again. I think now, I guess, with what I'm doing, well, originally, because I was playing tournaments on the weekend, so I couldn't really play. But especially now that I'm casting, I'm doing OCE and EU, so I'm sort of working every single weekend. So it's a bit hard to play.
Yeah.
It's nearly impossible.
I feel that.
Yeah, just been gymming to keep fit, and I guess one day I'll go back to football if the schedule eases up, or if Rocket League ends and I'm doing a regular 9-to-5 job or something. I'll probably find my way back on a football field.
Right, well, let's hope it doesn't come down. Let's hope you get back to the field, but let's hope it doesn't go back to because you're in a 9-to-5. I'm kind of sad though that hockey wasn't mentioned at all in any of the sports here. Do you ever watch hockey? I feel like.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, if there's one sport that I'll watch if I'm tuning into ESPN, because that's usually apart from basketball, is great to watch. I love watching the NBA.
Yeah, I've one major flaw with basketball, but overall transitions, rotations, really fun to watch.
Yeah, but in terms of if I was going to pick between baseball, NFL, and hockey, hockey is night and day. Like, I'd rather watch that just because they just smash into each other, big hits and stuff. So that's something that if I see it, I'm like, yeah, I'll tune in. And then within 2 minutes, there's a fight. And I think it's the craziest sport because fighting is so normalized. Like, everyone they just drop the gloves. The refs let them go at it. There's no breaking it up until they see a moment where they're a little bit tired. So... yeah, hockey's great to watch.
That's why we're nice off the field. We get it out on the ice, right? You know,
true.
we have our event.
There might be a bit in that. That's why Canadians are so. It's like the purge. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to get it out of your system.
Just one day, and then everyone's fine. So maybe that's what you guys do. You just get it out on the field, and then that's why Canadians are nice.
I guarantee you, there's zero science to back that up, but that's what we're going with. Yeah, no, it's fun, and I always because I just need ADHD. I need the fast pace. It also plays a lot like. Or Rocket League plays a lot like hockey. It's just with the verticality. There's a lot of similarities between the two. So that's actually what got me into Rocket
boundaries.
League. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It is a lot. It's probably closest to hockey. I think the best thing about Rocket League as well, what I got from it, because I come from team sports, that team aspect, which is why I never really liked the 1v1s and stuff. Like, I love working as a team, using each other, pass plays and stuff like that. That really got me into Rocket League. Just the ability that it felt like I was still playing like a regular sport because you're still doing the same things. You're talking, you're comming for each other, you're backing each other.
You're not pressing a button
like
to
that.
pass. You have to do that.
Yeah, and everything's on you, which is probably the best thing about it. If you stuff up, it's your mistake. It's not the computer deciding whether it's a good pass or not. So that's really fun. And yeah, I got to sort of get my sporting fix through Rocket League in a weird way because I got that competitive, I guess, fix because I was able to play at the highest level, whereas I wasn't able to play like football at the highest level. I was able to go, in that with Rocket League. So, it's really fun. It's interesting the parallels, and there's a lot of people that I guess play Rocket League because they come from a gaming background and they've never played team sports, and you can see that with a lot of teams, even some of the best teams in the world, the best players, they still lack that
fundamental
ability to be a good teammate, and just knowing that it's a team sport. And that you need to be there for each other. You need to show up on time. You need to always bring 100% because you're letting the team down if you, carry on a bit. So I think there's a bit of a shame because you see those kids or a lot of those players that haven't probably come from a team sport background and have a very individual mindset about the game. When in reality, it's just like every other team sport.
Yeah. I that's why I got into it in the first place because I was playing and early on, like preseason, it was. Everyone, I was the only player that actually played somewhat defensively, like as a third man. Everyone else was just ball chasing, right? Like it was little league soccer out there. So I'm like, you know what? I can, how arrogant of me, but I'm like, I can help people. I can teach people stuff like how to rotate properly in this game because I come again from hockey. I'm a goaltender in hockey, and so I watch the plays all the time. I started as a defenseman, so I always had that natural tendency to hang back. But
and you can see the whole field, so you have the best vision. You can communicate for everyone.
Yeah, so I'm like, I know how to help you. So that's how I got into initially casting because I'm like, I can teach people stuff while I'm talking about these matches. So yeah, you're right though. There's that fundamental of this is my team. We will win this. No matter what. I don't care that you're on the other team last time in this ranked match and you're toxic. You're on my team now. We win this. Screw those other guys. It's hard, but screw those other guys. We're gonna win this. Yeah, no, I think sports is an important thing just outside of the competitiveness, just for growth in a social environment too. But you're always I'm going to talk to everyone I talk to on this podcast is going to say they were competitive. They'll look at what the industry we're in, but like. Do you feel, I asked Calm about this recently. I've talked about Johnny about this too, but do you feel there is more of a tendency towards nature over nurture then? Like, I don't know if you have an opinion, if you ever thought too much about it, of like, can anybody say given the same amount of training or the same amount of hours into a game, do you feel like there are certain people that will inherently excel just because their brain's wired a little bit differently?
Yeah, I think so, but I'm not sure how much that's, I guess, upbringing compared to, I guess, I guess
That's
in
nature
terms of
versus
your
nurture.
context, how
Yeah.
much is nurture versus
Yeah.
nature, and how much is wired in. I think a lot of it, I guess, just growing up. I don't know if I would have, if I wasn't, if I didn't have a football in my hand when I was like 2 years old, or playing cricket, like since I was
Hmm.
so young, and had that, like, watching teams, like, see what it's like, see people's
Hmm.
emotion when they win and stuff like that, how much winning means to people, and knowing how important certain games are, and stuff like that. Maybe I wouldn't have. I don't know. I think if I
Hmm.
didn't play sport, I wouldn't be as competitive.
Yeah.
Just because you have that.
It's tough
I
because
don't.
to
Yeah.
compare, granted I started when I was 25, which I guess is over prime for esports, but I've put in 6,000 hours into Rocket League, nowhere near pros. I'm probably under half what pros are at now, but like I'm max peak at GC2 with all those hours. You'd think at this point I should be past that, right? And I grew up in a competitive environment. I grew up. Am I hard stuck? Am I like forever? Is this it? Maybe it is the hours. Maybe am I actually at my peak? Is that the max I'm ever going to see? Because now nature, because I'm getting older and my reflexes are slow, but like I wonder.
I I think certain people, like, it's probably about like how you learn. I think
Mm-hmm.
probably is the biggest thing. Like, for me, I've always been a pretty quick learner, and can adapt on the fly. So
Uh-huh.
that's certainly helped my Rocket League game. I mentioned when I was playing that North American ESL where I saw Dig Dog flying up. Like, quickly, I
Yeah.
was like, okay, you can do that. Let's work out how to do that. And then
Yeah.
quickly, I learned to do it. Whereas a lot of people need to, I don't want to say like need their handheld, but need like a certain tutorial video or something, and need explained in a certain way to do it. Whereas I guess I was able to find my
Mm-hmm.
own way, pretty self-taught in that. And I guess that was similar to me at school as well. Like, I was probably the person that didn't really put in it, like, as some people have to study for exams like every day, have to
Mm-hmm.
have a schedule and stuff, whereas
I
people
never did
got
that.
annoyed at me because I didn't really study, and then I sort of just had a glance at it a couple of days before, and then got better results than them, or got the same results, whereas some people were so stressed over
Yeah.
exams and stuff. So that's probably more nature.
Yeah.
Just was sort of born that way. And you look at the likes of Vatira and stuff, like, there's something ingrained in him where he
Mm-hmm.
just has this burning desire to always be the best, be
Yeah.
the GOAT. Which you'd think, I don't know if was something he learned when he was younger, but
Yeah.
I
It's
think for
it's
the
tough.
most part it's nature. I'd probably say with that sort of stuff. I don't know. It's hard, isn't it? Because I think upbringing plays a lot into it. What do you learn
Yeah.
when you're between the ages of, I guess, 4 to 12 or 3 to 12, about life and about what's important? But yeah, I've certainly had a natural tendency to just be able to pick up something on the fly and get good
Yeah.
at it within a short amount of time.
Yeah, no, there's no answers either. I mean, well, there might be actual answers out there in scientific papers, but I don't have the answers. It's just an interesting thing to
Hmm.
get people's perspectives to see if, because it's so hard, especially as a pro, if I ask the question for you to say it's nature, because it almost is an egotistical thing to say in a way of saying, yeah, I am better than other people
Hmm.
just inherently. And it's always tough to have that discussion when you're on the, I guess, receiving end of that discussion as like, oh, you're the best. So is that just because you're
Yeah.
better?
I
And you
I
don't
think
want to
like
say
like
yeah, right?
yeah, like, there's, I think talent, so always talk about like the hard work versus talent. And I
Hmm.
think like talent, you know, I
I
think
guess it's the same
talent
kind of
definitely
question,
gets
right?
you, yeah, it certainly gets you far. I think a lot of people are just naturally talented, but
Hmm.
like at the very elite level, like, you've got to have both.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, fair.
and it's probably, I don't want to say like, it's certainly a reason why I probably wanted to stop playing, just because I'd been around a while, and I probably realized where the game was going, and I always had like the natural speed and stuff, but I probably just didn't have the work ethic anymore, and didn't really want to
To keep up
practice
with the
every day,
mechanics
and
and stuff.
yeah, learning new mech and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
just probably didn't have that I guess, passion or desire that I used to have
Uh-huh.
to want to learn new things. I was kind of, and that's the hard thing. I was talking to Jane Apps and some of the OG pros, where we sort of grew up. I say grow up in Rocket League. Like when it came out, we were learning on the fly. You know what I mean? The game was growing as we were growing.
Mm-hmm.
But now you just have, I guess, and then new mechanics come along. But these people that are doing them, they're not in the RLCS. These guys are just doing these silly moves, and you're like, well, I'm not going to use that. I'm going to keep sticking to what I know and what works because I'm playing in the RLCS. And that's sort of what JNAPS was saying. Like he was just sticking to what he knows, and then all of a sudden these moves go into the RLCS, these new mechanics and stuff. And you think, well, I actually need to learn that. And then all of a sudden you're behind, but you probably didn't need to be behind, but you would just, it's not an ego thing, but you're just sticking to what's comfortable because you're at the top of your game and it's working, you're winning, and you feel like you don't need that sort of stuff. And yeah, before you know it, you get behind in mechanics. And then you look at Turbo, who's had to probably spend the last 6-12 months trying to get some mech back.
Yeah.
He's gone from the GOAT to falling off. And I don't think it's because he's getting older. It's just because, he had this way of playing the game that worked. So why would you change that? Why would he need to learn how to do a ceiling resets and, doing crazy stuff like that? Or we're seeing now with like zap dashes and all that sort of thing. So there's no reason to learn that because he didn't need it, but now he needs it, and now he's a couple of years behind people that have been doing it in ranks. So it's certainly hard for veterans, and I don't think it's because they're getting older or it's because they don't have the brain for it or something like that. You speak about you were 25. I don't think age is as big as what people say. I think it's work ethic. And like how long people have been in it and people getting stuck in a normal way of practicing. And also, just probably getting more behind while staying in the RLCS because it's worked for them. They don't need to do it.
They don't realize the threat.
You don't realize the threat. And then before you know it, there's like a Zen about to come into the league and he's got air roll bound to his trigger, directional air roll on his trigger. And he's changing the game. So you just certainly fall behind. And then it's, do you have the work ethic? Do you want to be able to grind and catch up, or are you just going to let the game go past you? And I guess I was happy to let the game go past me at that point. I think it was a good point for me to retire and jump onto the other side, experience a new job.
Age doesn't matter, says aging man.
I could still play. If I had the work ethic when I was 17 years old, first playing the game, then I'd still be up there. But I didn't want to play Rocket League for 100 hours every 2 weeks anymore.
That's true. That's a grind. I'm curious then. What do you think? Because a lot of my perspective on because we've seen pros over the age of 30 in different esports, whether it's Smash Bros, CS:GO. I think Pasha Biceps like 33 or something when he was still playing. Is like, there's
a lot of over 30 Counter-Strike players.
Yeah. And I wonder, if the reason we didn't see that before was. I say I wonder. I'm going to give my opinion here. My opinion is that there was no foundation for people to continue past that point. When you hit the age, there was small enough prize pools that when you didn't have a ton of bills, rent, mortgage, all the stuff, you're living with your parents, you had a lot of that covered. You could spend more time. But then as you got older, you went to school, you had a family, or you bought a house, whatever. You had to spend less time in that, so you fell off as a result because you had responsibilities now. And now that prize pools and salaries are large enough, do you think we're going to see every esport really push that top end of how old players are going to get, and is Rocket League going to follow suit with that? We're going to see eventually an over 30 professional.
I don't know.
It's a ways off.
Because as I said, age doesn't matter, but you said it perfectly. It's not the age. It's like the responsibilities and just different stages of life. And I think Rocket League, for me, it's tough because nearly one of the reasons I retired really is because for us scrims are always like 5, 6, 7 p.m. at night, and it's just a terrible time slot because Nolly explained it as well on one of the podcasts he was on. He's like, your day nearly doesn't start until 4 p.m. because all the kiddies are at school. So when you're plus 18 and you're not at school anymore, it's almost, I don't say like you're wasting your life, but there's so much of the day that you're just missing out on because
you're sitting there
sometimes
waiting.
You can't. Yeah, you're basically waiting, and you can't really focus a lot of time because you're sort of focused on scrims which are happening further on. You're almost hanging around until scrim starts, and you can't really do much in those other times. Rank scene's usually dead because all the kiddies are at school. And it's a terrible time slot, dinner time. You miss out on a
Mm-hmm.
lot of dinners, and I think like certainly Brielle, my partner, was I guess frustrated at the fact that I had scrims every night. You couldn't just duck over to your family's place for dinner or
Mm-hmm.
go out and do just be a bit more spontaneous because you're always sort of stuck
Yeah.
at your desk. And it's not like these guys are, a lot of people say, well, everyone else has 9 to 5s, they work 8 hours a day. You guys are only doing 4 hours a day or whatever. But it's not how much we're practicing. It's the fact that you're sort of stuck like for 2 3 hours a day. You have to be in this
Mm-hmm.
position. Like you have to be at your desk, at your house. And I guess always sort of being stuck at your computer was probably a big reason why I decided to
Mm-hmm.
retire, because I saw the opportunity with casting where I can sort of have my own schedule during the week, and
Yeah.
I'm still going to have to do a bit of commentary during the night. But even like EU, like it might be like 2, 3, 4 a.m., but I might only do one series or two series. So I just
Yeah.
wake up, get energized for a couple hours, but then I've still got my whole, during the day, during the
Mm-hmm.
weekend, and having my weekdays free. It's just such a better quality of life right now, and I can sort of do what I want, do some more podcasts, some
Yeah.
more content. So yeah, I guess getting back to the age question, I sort of answered it in a roundabout way, but
Mm-hmm.
I I think it's hard. Like if you, yeah, I guess it's like professional sports. Like a lot of professional sports people go 30 plus, but I
Drop
think
off
that
is around late 30s, 40s, or like
I
late
think that like
to up to 40.
I think their families are like a lot more involved in it, and you sort of, for the most part, your practice is like not. You're still doing like a 9 to 5. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of those
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
professional sports. Obviously, they're traveling a lot, but they're not often training too late when they're professional sports people. So you still get your dinners, your night times. You see your kids at night or whatever. It's a little bit different from esports, which is a
Yeah.
lot more isolating. Sort of like families aren't too involved unless they're going to lands and stuff,
Yeah.
compared to professional sports where all the kids are probably going to go watch their dad play the games and stuff. It's a
Yeah.
lot more isolating, and I think it's hard. It's a hard lifestyle, I'd say, to continue to do plus 30. And I don't think it's the fact that they're getting older and their
Okay.
reflexes are getting slower. I just think that I certainly couldn't, even if I was at the top, I couldn't do it for that long. I want a different work-life balance
Mm-hmm.
at some point.
No, that's fair. Yeah, I'm just so I guess to answer the question, will we ever see on Rocket League? I guess your answer would then be yes. It's possible. It would take someone that doesn't mind
Yeah,
not having that kind of schedule.
it'd probably take, if like I want to see like what's Vatira doing in 10 years' time. I want to see if he's still got the same mindset or he's had enough. You even see Monkey Moon now, like he's had a few issues. He had some
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
relationship troubles, broke up with his partner and stuff like that. So you see like the mental toll that's taking, and I
Mm-hmm.
guess I don't know. I don't want to segue your show, but it almost is like a little bit a
This is
segue
our
into
show
the
right now.
mental side of Rocket League. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's such an isolating esport, like
Do you feel it's different
any
than
other.
another esport?
Well, I just think maybe let's just rephrase it. Esports itself is
Okay.
isolating, I'd say, just because it's online. Like, yeah, you're hanging out with people, but you're not getting that face-to-face
Mm.
interaction outside of 4 times a year at LANs or whatever, unless
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
living
Yeah.
in a team house. And you do, I guess, when I was playing, you miss out on a lot of social events. Like when your weekends are taken up, they're usually the times when your mates want to go have
Mm-hmm.
dinner, go out. There's birthdays, gatherings, social events and things like that. So you miss out on a lot of that stuff. And a lot of the pros do talk about that they're probably their whole world nearly just becomes Rocket League. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of these kids especially the kids that didn't have team sport backgrounds or didn't have a social life much at school, or you see these 15, 16-year-olds dropping out of school to play Rocket League, and you ask
Just
them
don't do
like,
it.
there's so many pros I've talked to. I don't know how this comes up in conversation, but they're just like, yeah, I've got like, I don't really have any friends from school, or I don't have any
Yeah.
friends outside of Rocket League. And it just seems like such a dangerous, I guess, path to go on, because then if you put in a poor performance, if you lose, then your whole
Everything
social life
is
knows
gone.
about it. Yeah, everything. Like if you lose, you're a bad person. If you miss a ball, you're a bad person. Whereas it's so important to have that outlet, have that family
Mm.
or social life, real life friends. Where if even like now
Mm-hmm.
or when I was playing, like if I have a bad game or something, or I don't qualify for an event, Like, yeah, in the Rocket League scene, like, you're going to cop it. But once you go outside of that, step away from your computer, go out with your mates. Like, I'm not CJ, I'm Cameron. You know what I mean? It's not, they don't care about that. It's just my job. Whereas I feel like for a lot of these young Rocket League pros coming up that have just put their whole everything into Rocket League, it's their life. And it's dangerous. Like, you might see that success, but once it starts going the other way, like, you even look at Monkey Moon now. I'm not saying that like he's made it his whole life, but he talks about the mental toll of it, and he's one of the best, if not the best player that we've had in the game. And he's still talking about how he doesn't have happiness. You know what I mean? Like, it's scary to think about stuff like that when there's so many players that are below him have never achieved anything close to what he has, never even gone pro, but are still putting in as much time and effort as he is. And you think, geez, imagine what those guys are thinking like. If one of the best players is talking about that sort of stuff, imagine the guys that don't make it, that don't even see success, that how they're feeling and when they put their whole lives into Rocket League as well. So, yeah, esports are tough, man. It's a tough gig, and you certainly have to sacrifice a lot of things. Whilst people think, oh, you're just sitting at your computer all day.
Yeah.
I think it can be a very isolating sport.
It's more than just. I mean, here's the thing. I'm never going to take for granted what I get to do. But you're right, and it's way less than the hours the pros have to put in. But you're right. It's more than just, hey, I'm playing video games. It's I'm giving up, as you said, everything else about me. I don't have any hobbies. It's funny because we talking to the 3 that I've recorded so far, and by the way, on the channel, all of these are going to be uploaded at the same time, so go check them out. All of them on the channel, I think every interview so far that I've had, everyone in some way has basically said you have to have other hobby or things that you're doing for yourself that is, whether that's working out, whether that is knitting, whether that's just playing other games that aren't Rocket League, something that you're doing that's rewarding yourself and isn't built for other people. Because especially for kids, I mean, while it is for you, your education is for you. As a kid, you still feel like I'm doing this homework for someone else. I'm doing these chores for my parents. It's someone else, right? So a lot of your life, and especially Rocket League now, is like if it goes bad, it's like, sure, you enjoy it, but you're still doing it for your team. You're doing it for other people. This isn't your whole identity being attached to that one thing is a problematic if you're right, if it fails. So it's just interesting how all of the guests so far have brought that up, that you have to have something else for yourself.
Yeah, and I think if you did a poll, right, of there's so many pros that they're at school or they finish school or they drop out of school and they go full-time Rocket League, they actually end up performing worse. They get worse results or they start not playing as well. And I was even speaking to Amphis about this. One, he finds that he plays better Rocket League when he's at school. Because he's getting up early, he's got a better sleep schedule, he's got something else going on, even though he's playing worse, playing less, should I say. And also, something that I found and he found as well was when I was playing football and playing Rocket League, I just felt like I performed better. I was getting better results. I was happier. I was playing better, everything, because it wasn't everything I was doing. Like I was like, I'd practice, I'd scream, but then I'd have something else on the side. Like, it's not your whole life. You need to have these other hobbies so you can just go, all right, well, that part of my day didn't go that great, but I've still got this part of my day. You know what I mean? And rather than so many people like, oh, I just had the worst 2-hour scrim block, my whole day's ruined. Whereas if you've at least got, school or you've got another sport you got to go to, or at least you're going to the gym or something, you can be like, oh, well, scrims didn't go well, but that was a great gym session, stuff like that. Or I really enjoyed going out with my friends or seeing my mates today, stuff like that. You have to have other things. And I think that, people see that as a distraction or it's bad to not invest everything into Rocket League. But I think it's nearly the other way. You need to have more things going on outside the game just to have a release. You need to have an outlet. Otherwise, you just gonna burn yourself up, even if you're at the top like Monkey Moon.
Well, you looked at recently, Mr. Beast was talking on Liefx podcast that he really, I mean, look at Mr. Beast, because Mr. Beast could be an example that generally most people use as, look at, if you want something that has to be everything, that has to be your life. But he was even talking on there that he realized, and he's still young too, he's 24, I think, which is still pretty, but he realized now that he has to take that time to play he loves board games now. right? Like he has to take that time. But for him, it was tough to initially say, well, if I take time away from making a video, I'm not going to be successful, right? It's very easy to be toxic to yourself. When I'm playing single player games, my whole brain is saying, well, I'm a public facing brand. I have to be streaming this, or I have to make a YouTube video for this. And I would start making content that I'm like, I'm not passionate about this. And even the things that I used to distract myself became things I didn't want to do. They were burning me out because I was being toxic to myself, and eventually said, no, you know what? I'm going to sit down for as much time as I want to play this game. And when I'm tired of that, I'll go edit. And then when I'm tired of editing, I'll go write a script. When I'm tired of writing a script, I'll go for a walk. So I let my brain tell myself when I'm done doing this thing, I go do it. But that's a freedom that, again, the pros, just to kind of full circle it, won't necessarily always have unless they're actively thinking about, okay, I need to have something else here. I need to take a break. Or maybe they're not even given the chance because scrims have to happen at this certain time, and then they're also playing on the weekend. So it does feel like it can be heavy sometimes for pros and not being able to even get away.
Yeah, I think it's tough. I think there's always room though, especially as I said, because scrims are always so late in the day. You've got sort of all the start of your day to the beginning of the day to the middle.
Unless you're in school.
To work as but unless you're in school, but I think school's fantastic. Like I think I don't know. I think it's great. You look at Chronic's still at school doing his thing, and look how well he's performing. I think you see so many pros that make it work and are performing at the highest level. I don't see many pros that go. You see them tweet like, now I finished school, I can dedicate 100% of my life to Rocket League. You don't see them taking over the world after that.
Yeah,
all the time they regress from there. So, I think people probably overestimate how much time they need to put into Rocket League and underestimate how important everything else is outside of it that went along, and why you need these outlets for yourself, because your mental health will just improve and then your performance will as well.
Rocket League's hard because like when we have to fill, too, it's like and compared to like League of Legends or even CS:GO is like, the complexity of the game or the depth of it isn't quite there. There's infinite possibilities because it's a physics-based game. I constantly see new things all the time. But when it comes to filling as an analyst, it can sometimes be a little more difficult. You can't theory craft too much. So I wonder, did you ever feel that like as analysts, because there've been plenty of times where hours played was brought up, like, oh look, they weren't putting, that's why they're performing bad. Do you feel like that was like you just disagree with that being brought up as a thing at all whenever it got brought up? We don't do that much anymore. It was definitely something that was like 4 seasons ago or something. But
I think we still talk about it. But yeah, I agree. I think firstly, everyone has a different amount that they need to be playing to practice.
Yeah, fair.
There's certainly like an amount you need to play to keep at the same level, and then you need to have a little bit more to keep improving. But I don't think it's crazy. Like I think right now, Rocket League, I'm just going to throw out a number, but I reckon like around 50, 60 hours is probably like the baseline. Like that's just fine. And then you see some guys get up to 100, which is crazy. And you probably will see improvement. But yeah, I don't know. I think hours are overrated. Like I don't think 50 hours is the worst. I think you can get away with less as well, like 40, 30. But yeah, it's interesting, as you said. Rocket League it's hard. You talk about feeling like there's a lot of things that happen that you don't really notice that it's good to pick up on. And I think that's why I'm enjoying coming onto this side of things, because even coaching, like I'd like to coach, but the problem with coaching is that it's the same as if I'm playing. Like now I'm still got scrims every night and stuff, so I wouldn't want to coach, because if I'm coaching, I may as well be playing. I'm still putting in the same amount of time. I may as well just be playing the game instead of watching it. But with coming from, I guess the most recent talent to come from a professional background, I do feel like I have some things to bring, like just the finer things in terms of little positioning and just knowing what players are thinking in the moment. Certainly can add a little bit of, I guess, another element to the broadcast, which I think I can bring as well. And I think the beauty of Rocket League, as you said, it seems so simple. Everyone says that, like it's the simplest game to watch, but it's the hardest to play. But yeah, there's so many little things going on in people's heads. Like, look at, like, you might just see this guy, in a certain spot on the field, and you're like, okay, yeah, he's just there. But you don't realize, okay, he's actually covering so many different scenarios and situations just by being in that exact spot, things like that. Or, little boost management, or just
Yep.
knowing, having an idea of how much boost everyone has, stuff like that. There's so many little things with Rocket League that you can sort of touch on, and it's almost like a blank canvas, isn't it, Rocket League? Like you can just get as creative as you want with it, which is why it's so fun to watch.
Yeah, which is why I think it's phenomenal that even to this day we're seeing innovations that people that like for instance the air roll on L2, like that. It's just, oh yeah, how is that not common? How is it not tested? How is it not common knowledge?
Yeah.
Like,
it makes so much sense that for those that don't know, Zen's just bounded a directional air roll to L2, and directional air roll, it's just when you tap it, your card just starts spinning either air roll right or left.
You don't need the analog stick. Yeah,
you don't need the analog stick. It will just spin on its axis, and he bounded to a trigger, which is obviously not a 0 to 1 movement. It's depending on how hard you press the trigger. So he's been spinning a little bit slower or faster. He can control that, which makes so much sense. But no one else had done it. Like people had bound, people had bound normal air roll to the triggers, but that doesn't really do anything. It's still the same. You got to use your thumbsticks. But I hadn't really. I'm sure people have done it, but I hadn't heard of any pro binding directional air roll, and it makes so much sense. Like those little things. There's probably obvious things that we're still not doing, Leaf.
Yeah.
Might be really easy to do, or faster ways to rotate, better ways to grab boost, more efficient ways to use it, stuff like that. Where we're still learning, which is why I think it's cool. Why I keep watching.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. Again, the part of the thing that I got into it was hockey, and the fact that it felt like, especially with the mental aspect, when you get into a one-on-one, and now there's the mind games. Okay, I know that you know how to do this mechanic, which means you're going to cover who you're positioning. There's a lot of that one-on-one that happens constantly and so fast, and coming from Smash, I really like that element of it as well. And that game continuously had innovations over, Melee had, even up to now, 20 years later, innovations in it. So seeing a game like Rocket League continue, the fact that we still haven't hit that skill ceiling is mind-blowing to me this many years. Well, what are we, 8 years into the game now?
It's still one of the youngest esports when you think about it. Outside of, I guess, like Valorant, but that was like all those games, Counter-Strike, they're all so similar. They're very crossover, but yeah, Rocket League's still so young, so it's got so much room to grow, and it's interesting to see these new kids come along and find new mechanics. It's exciting to watch.
I thought I was thinking of questions just ahead of time. I haven't even looked over at it yet, but I just glanced over and I had a question on there. Would you go back now after transitioning to casting and then go back into pro? And I'm assuming for Rocket League, the answer based off what we just talked about is no, right? Like, you know where you want to be, and you're very happy with the time that you have for yourself now. The question though is, what if another esport and all of a sudden you're just a god at it? Would you take the chance to be a pro at that? If another game comes along that somehow...
Maybe. I think it'd be fun to experience new things. I like to, obviously, the reason why I probably retired, I want to experience something new, push myself, and just see if I can find a new niche, find something else. So maybe if a new esport came along, but I think it'd be short-lived. Like, I think maybe if I feel like I'd be a Lachinio, like win the first world championship and peace out sort of thing, or an over zero. Maybe I'll be good at the start, and then I don't think there'd be much longevity, because again, I guess it is that work.
That'd be good for the resume.
Be good for the resume, yeah. It'd certainly be a feather in my cap. Sort of like right now as well. I'm currently studying business online, and it's kind of like what you said about your degree. Like I wouldn't say I'm fully into it, but it's something that like I want to do. Like it's almost like going to the gym. Like you don't really want to go to the gym, but you just want to do it. Like I want to have it. One, I want a degree, because I always want to be someone that just dropped out after 2 years. So I'm gonna continue this one out. But it's also like another feather in your cap, and so you can say you've done it. So maybe that'd be like a new game coming out. I'd just be like, let's do it. Okay, let's see what happens.
For an existing game, then, if you had to pick an esport that exists right now, is there one? What game would you want to be a pro in? What would you be?
Firstly, I've been playing a lot of Tarkov, but that's not really an esport. But I've been enjoying a bit of escape from Tarkov. Okay. If there was an esport that I would like to go pro in, it would. I think Counter-Strike would be like awesome to experience a 5-man roster and just see how that works, like instead of a 3-man.
It's interesting that you chose the reason that you chose CS:GO was because of how many people run it, rather than like, I want to try a shooter. You're like, I want to try a game with 5 people on a team?
I don't know. It's just the team aspect it'd be cool. I think it's just seeing the dynamic, the different. I like it's a bit more like structured, I guess. Well, I don't know if I like that. I don't really like structure, but
Yeah, I'm like,
it's
you just told us why you don't like that.
it's certainly very different to Rocket League, and yeah, but Counter Strike's probably my favorite esport to watch outside of like the League World Championships when that's on. But it's probably Counter Strike. It's exciting to watch. I love watching the majors. So, yeah, unless some other esport came along, I don't know. I just don't. I don't really enjoy many of the other sports. Rocket League's so lucky, as we touched on it earlier, that everything you do is on you. Whereas like you watch FIFA and 2K and stuff like that.
I can't watch sports.
It's all just push a button. Like I can't get behind it because it's not luck, but because you certainly increase your chances of doing something well depending on what you do. But there's so much that's automated that I just can't watch.
I prefer esports that reduce to the maximum amount the level of RNG involved. That's why I can't take. I play Magic the Gathering. I'm playing the crap out of Marvel Snap right now, but like I'm not gonna watch card game esports. It's just way too much RNG for my liking. Yeah, I like ones and CS:GO is, in my opinion, very good at minimizing the level of RNG involved.
Yep.
We agree on that one. Now, I'm very curious about this because I almost had like. So you've mentioned to me that you've always kind of been a bit more not your traditional gamer, but then you've also told me, but I don't like being extroverted all the time. I like spending time alone here, and then also when I'm asking you about things that people might not know, you said, this is hard to think about things people might know about me because in my opinion, it sounds like you've already told everybody everything. Like you are extroverted. What level of being introverted is like, because everyone has their own recharge period. Is it way more than people think, or is it like you're pretty quick at being like, no, I just need maybe an hour or a day to myself. Like I need sometimes like 2 weeks.
I don't know. It's interesting because like I'm obviously, if I see someone or I'm in front of someone, I'm talking to someone, I'm going to be very extroverted. But I think it's more the fact that I don't know, it's introverted rather than I just really enjoy hanging out by myself. I think that's probably why why I became a professional gamer in a way. Like I just enjoyed hanging out in the my lounge room or in the rompers room, whatever, and playing some Rocket League, and that's always stuck with me. Like I could, my partner always jokes like you could literally just stay in your room for like ever and you'd be fine. And I was like, like I enjoy just hanging out. I like just researching new things, or I'm pretty, I guess. I don't say like impulsive, but if I find something like Tarkov, like I just go all in on it for like a little bit, and then I'll find something else and then go all in on it. You know what I mean?
Do you have ADHD?
It's probably ADHD, yeah. But, and I probably
Jorby's the same. I'm the same. I find people with ADHD is like you go hard on something for a few weeks, and then you're on.
I just like focus on something, or it's even like researching. Like I just got a new computer, like researching new computer parts. Like I just go all in on that, like and stuff like that. Or I might be like buying a new car, like just go all in on that. Or looking at the property market, just go all in on that sort of stuff. Like. Or it was like crypto. Like I went all in on crypto for a little bit. That didn't go too great, so we won't talk about that. But it's just stuff like that. I find new hobbies, and then so I definitely now thinking that I probably have ADHD with that sort of stuff, and certainly find it hard to focus on things that I don't really want to be doing. Like even like uni, like I'm gonna be fine at it. Like I want to do it, but I'm not putting my heart and soul into it. I'm just sort of ticking it over.
For me, it can almost feel physically painful or uncomfortable to do things that my heart isn't in at the moment. Like because with ADHD, the problem is that the dopamine roads that they travel along to reward certain things aren't working properly. So when you're to sit down and do something that you're not enjoying it can be physically uncomfortable to do because there's literally zero reward being given to the brain of like, yes, you started a task. That's good. Starting a task sometimes can feel terrible as someone with ADHD.
Yeah, I think once you do it though, any of those things, you do feel good afterwards. It's like
Afterwards.
going to the gym, similar to that. Yeah, afterwards.
But
while you're doing it and everything, yeah,
even starting is so hard.
Starting is hard, but yeah. So in terms of that, you probably pinned me on that one, but yeah, I just certainly like just my own time, and that's pretty much it. Like I'm not sitting here just like talking to the screen when I'm by myself. I'm just hanging out and certainly talk to myself a lot. I'd say that in my own. Got that little man in the back of my head that certainly is very chatty. So he's certainly talking to myself a lot about different things. And
what do you think about them?
Certainly.
What do you think of when you're talking to the little man, when you're talking to little CJ? What are you talking about? Where does your brain go? Is
probably for the most part, it's like I should be more productive. I'd say. Like, you know, I probably could be doing more. So it's probably that sort of stuff. Like he's just telling us, like, come on, let's go do this, let's go do that. When my other side of me is like, no, let's just go hang out and play Tarkov all day. You'll be good. But yeah, I certainly like. I really enjoy LANs. Like I love seeing everyone. I sort of get my fix there of seeing people. But I certainly like if I'm by myself for a while, I'm not like, oh, I need to go out. I need to get a social fix. You know what I mean? Like I'm pretty content.
You could be happy with either. I understand that completely. I empathize with that 100% because it's the same. It's like when I'm doing the thing, I'm happy with it, but I'm not like I don't want to be doing the other thing. Sometimes I need to recharge from being extroverted by being introverted, and then sometimes I need to recharge from being introverted by being extroverted. But I love doing both.
Said it perfectly.
Yeah,
love
it. I don't want to hold you too much long. I honestly could probably just talk to you for the rest of the day, but it's probably
we have gone for a little bit, haven't we? I didn't notice the time. Wow, that's been a long one. Sorry, everyone that's still watching.
Yeah, if they're so, if you guys made it this far, shout outs. But I want to kind of get one last thing about CJ before I'll let you out of here then, so you can go play some Tarkov. But also by the way, have you tried Dark and Darker?
I have not. I've watched a little bit. This is another thing. This could be the final topic actually in terms of video games. I don't know if like Rocket League has ruined my enjoyment of games, but I really struggle to play single player games now. And I think it's because I've always... Rocket League's been my job, but also gaming now has always been like that competitive fix. Like, I have to beat someone, have to be better. And I think professional competitive games really do ruin your enjoyment of just like being able to just switch off. And that's probably like the ADHD sort of thing coming in as well. Like it needs to be like, give me something. Like I can't sit there don't give me that cutscene that goes for 10 minutes. Like I'd rather just watch a movie. But I used to play a lot of single player games. And I sort of had a moment when I retired where I was like, man, I just want to kick back on a couch and play single player games. Like I didn't have that fix, but I think I'm slowly sort of starting to get that. Like, okay, I need to play someone. Like I need to verse someone. I need to prove myself. I need to compare myself to other people. Sort of fix again. But I'm trying to get away from that. I've been playing like the PlayStation 5 and PS4. I've been trying to sync up next to me. So I've been playing a bit of like God of War and stuff like that.
Nice.
A few single player games, but it's hard, man. It's hard to sort of nearly enjoy games in a weird way after making it your job for so long.
No, you're 100%. I think there is absolutely something to be said about it. The fact that when you're playing something competitive, there's a goal you're trying to drive towards bettering yourself, and there's results you can see. Oh, I've been trying to hit this certain shot in Rocket League I hit it, boom, goal. Now let's do it consistently 10 times. Now 20 times. There's a nearsighted goal. And the problem I think that happens to our brains with single player games, that we start saying, what am I bettering out of this? Rather than realizing I don't have to be a better person. I can sit here and indulge in a story. I can enjoy that 10-minute cutscene because it's the emotion that this character and actor is portraying. And because I did find when I was playing single player games, either A, I felt I had to stream it as someone that's supposed to be making content. So I couldn't enjoy it by myself. And then B, when I did play a game and I said, okay, I don't have to stream this. This game is for me. I still found myself min-maxing my single playthrough, saying, well, I can only play this once. I have to beat it all in one go. And then I'm not enjoying the art, the environment, I'm not enjoying the storytelling. I'm checklisting, and games are not helping. I mean, the fact that we have waypoints for everything, it is a checklist. You feel there's no real true exploration. I think that's why people really enjoyed Elden Ring, is that you really did feel like you were exploring and there was reward for that exploration. But yeah, I think games don't help us, but also it does feel like I'm min-maxing my experience here to the point I'm not actually in the moment and looking. Sometimes it's okay in a single player game to stop and just look at the sunset and make your character sit down and look at the sunset over there because it's pretty. And I think it's okay to take that time, but trying to tell yourself that's okay becomes this just this split, this dissonance in your head of like, I'm wasting time.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, again, it's another downside of being a professional esport player, is that you lose that enjoyment. I feel like I'm slowly getting it back though. It feels
good.
like nearly
I'm happy to hear
it's
that.
nearly a competitive. It's like nearly an addiction. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like a drug. You need that fix. You need that competitive. And I was burnt out from it. And then I don't know. It's hard, but slowly I'll get around to the fact that okay, you're not doing this professionally. You don't need to always prove yourself. But I still really enjoy those games. Like I'll probably end up jumping back into Rocket League for a season and trying to get top 100, or playing a bit of Valorant, trying to grow into Immortal or something, stuff like that. So still have that competitive side, but yeah, I feel like I've got a lot of single player games that I've missed out on over the last 6 years because I didn't really play much outside of Rocket League and other competitive shooters and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that you're on the track to enjoying them again, because there's a lot to be enjoyed with those games. Like again, I'm playing through Ragnarok as well. I'm trying to beat Horizon. I finally just finished Last of Us 2 that I didn't play for
Watching
years.
the show?
Oh, of course. Oh my God.
Yeah, how good.
That is the greatest.
It's actually, is it out or it's coming out tonight?
Tomorrow night. It's for you tonight. Tomorrow. It's coming out Friday.
Oh, tomorrow. Yeah, sorry.
Friday
It's
night.
Thursday night for you, isn't it? Yeah. So
Yeah,
it'll be like Saturday afternoon for me.
Yeah, Saturday for you. Yeah, because everything revolves around American football, so we have to suffer as everyone else in the world. That's the way. Well, I guess it's good. We get it early, which I guess is kind of good, right? But then the next week we have to wait longer.
I'm looking forward to it. Great show, great game.
Fantastic. If people have not watched this yet, also because of that, I went and watched Craig Mazin's other show, Chernobyl. It's a 5-episode thing.
I want to watch that. Yeah.
Dude.
I think I've seen the first episode on a plane once, but I didn't follow it up. I want to watch it.
I think it's because of the scenario inherently has tension to it because we know what happens, but it's almost better than Last of Us in a lot of different ways. Okay. Last of Us is fantastic, but continue up on Chernobyl. I think you'll very much enjoy it. So that's a big shout out for Craig Mazin's career about to blow up. He's about to send it. But if you do want some competitive or Tarkov style things, and you want to try some Dark and Darker, hit me up, because I'm playing with some buddies right now, and sometimes we need an extra. So
love that.
It's a good Tarkov style game, but with swords instead of guns. So final thing on the way out here is for CJCJ. You have everyone has a philosophy in life, a thing that they try to guide their lives by. And I know one of the things you want to talk about was mental, and we covered that a bit ago, but I want to bring it back to that. Is there something for you that kind of drives a lot of your decisions? Like, is there a statement or a phrase, a philosophy that you come back to? Because you talk about team play, you talk about being there. It's not just being good. It's about, being a team player. What drives you in your day-to-day decisions as Cameron Johns?
Well, the first one was obviously just saying yes to everything, having a crack at everything, just have a go, even if you feel like you don't enjoy it. Just see what happens, and you'll never know what will come from there. But yeah, I think you're touching on the mental side. Just being a good person is so much more important than, you think that when you're a Rocket League player that all people care about is what you're doing on the pitch and stuff like that. But I think growing as a person and as an individual is just so much more important. And I feel like it sounds like stupid, but if you really are just like there. Like you're looking out for people. You don't have a, you know, you don't think you're the main character all the time, and you're happy to just, you know, sometimes be a cog in the machine and help push other people up with you. Then you'll see a lot more opportunities come your way, and I think you'll just have a better overall mindset on life, and you won't, you know, you see those pros that just play, it's all about them, and then they burn out and fade off into nothing. Like just enjoy yourself, and enjoy spending time with others, and just remember that, yeah, the world doesn't always revolve around you, and, you know, let's help bring each other up along the way. And that's what Rocket League's all about, being a teammate, and you certainly have a longer career and a better career, and a better life, I'd say, in general. So yeah, help people, and the mental side of Rocket League is massive. So get your mental coaches in; they're huge. Yeah, and just know that Rocket League isn't the be all and end all, and it's all about, we're all just growing and learning along the way. So say yes to everything you want. Say yes to everything at least once. Have a crack. You might find something that takes you on a new path in life, and yeah, I'd say just one last thing. My general thing is, even if it's,
go for another hour.
You're in a rough situation, or, you know, or you feel like, you know, you haven't qualified for something, you lost that job or whatever. Just know that, like, this is, you are where you're meant to be. Be where your feet are. This is just the roller coaster of life. There's ups and downs, and you look back on it in 12 months, 2 years, 5 years time, and be grateful for that situation you're in now, because everything happens for a reason. So if you have that mindset, then even when you're in, you know, crappy times, it just know it'll all work out. And I think that's a more positive way to live. So that's what I've been doing, and certainly helped me in my Rocket League career. And I'm just going to keep doing that, keep vibing, keep having a crack at new things, and just know that I am where I'm meant to be.
Amen. That's right. Now, is the title of this video going to be just be a good person, or it's okay to be an NPC?
I don't know if it's an okay to be an NPC is a great thing, but yeah, you know, so many people have main character syndrome. Yeah. Don't have main character syndrome all the time. Yeah. Like, you still got to look after yourself, but yeah, be a good person.
Yeah, you know what?
More important than a Rocket League player.
Again, I could continue talking about this all the time, but I don't want to undermine it by talking about it. I think you said everything very nicely there, and I agree with everything there. So I'm just going to say ditto, amen. It's a fantastic philosophy to have, and I hope nothing in the world ever takes away that perspective, because it's a very good perspective to have, and I hope other people that look up to you in your career can take that to heart and live that way too. It's honestly fantastic. I have been 100% of your day so far, so I would like you to experience other things out in life. So I'm gonna let you go. I just gotta say, CJ, this was a blast. Thank you for sitting and chatting with me. Hell yeah,
I enjoyed this. I need to just like call up random people and just start talking to them. I think this is great.
Right.
And thank you for doing this, legend.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Maybe we'll cycle through everyone, but we got to get you back with the amount of wisdom you just dropped on us. So think of some inspirational things for next time. But yeah, shout out. Thanks for joining, man.
Thank you. Absolute legend. Thanks, guys.